The Arecibo Telescope, humanity's window into the cosmos, a deep sleep documentary into one of science's greatest instruments. Welcome to the Deep Sleep Channel. Tonight, we tell the story of one of humanity's greatest scientific achievements, a story of ambition and vision, a story of engineering brilliance, a story of humanity reaching out into the cosmos, searching for answers to the deepest questions. This is the story of the Arecibo Observatory. For 57 years, a massive radio telescope sat in the mountains of Puerto Rico. It was the largest single-dish radio telescope in the world. It was humanity's ear turned toward the heavens. It listened to pulsars and quasars. It searched for signals from extraterrestrial civilizations. It discovered new worlds and new phenomena. Then, in December 2020, it collapsed. The iconic structure that had stood for nearly 6 decades crumbled, but the legacy of Arecibo lives on. The discoveries remain. The questions it asked remain. The search it conducted continues. Close your eyes. Travel with us to Puerto Rico. Let us stand before the massive dish. Let us look up at the sky through the enormous antenna. Let us understand what it meant to have such a powerful instrument. Let us contemplate what we lost when it fell. This is a meditation on human achievement, on the power of science to expand our understanding, on our desire to reach out and communicate with the cosmos, on the fragility of great works, the vision, building Earth's greatest radio telescope. The story of Arecibo begins in 1960. The space race is beginning. The Soviet Union has launched Sputnik. America is determined to catch up. Scientists and engineers are full of ambition. They dream of building instruments that can rival anything on Earth. A young astronomer named William Gordon had a vision. He wanted to build a radio telescope larger than any that had ever been built. A telescope so sensitive that it could detect the faintest signals from space. A telescope that could be used to study pulsars and quasars and other mysterious objects. But such a telescope would be expensive. It would be enormous. How could it be built? Gordon had an idea. Instead of building a telescope that moved and tracked objects across the sky, like traditional telescopes, he would build a stationary telescope, a fixed dish that could observe a portion of the sky. By changing the position of the receiver above the dish, he could observe different parts of the sky without moving the dish itself. And where would he build it? Gordon realized that a natural bowl-shaped valley could be used as the dish. No need to build the entire structure. Just use the Earth itself. Create a dish from concrete and metal mesh that fit the shape of the valley. Gordon found the perfect location, a valley in the karst region of Puerto Rico, near the town of Arecibo. The valley was the right shape. The location was right. The project was approved. Construction began in 1960. It would take 3 years to complete. 3 years of building one of the most ambitious scientific instruments ever conceived. The construction. Engineering a miracle. Building the Arecibo telescope was one of the greatest engineering challenges of its time. The dish would be 305 meters in diameter. For comparison, that is about 3 football fields. It is as wide as the Empire State Building is tall. The dish had to be made of metal mesh. Metal is stronger than concrete. but allows radio waves to pass through and reflect properly. A team of engineers designed a structure that could support the weight of the mesh and the equipment. Above the dish, suspended on cables, was the receiver platform. This platform held the antenna that received the radio signals reflected from the dish. The platform was 137 meters above the dish. It weighed 900 tons. The cables holding the platform were attached to 3 steel towers surrounding the dish. Each tower was 305 meters tall as the dish was wide. The towers had to be strong enough to support the weight and to withstand hurricanes and earthquakes. Building this structure in Puerto Rico, in a remote location with limited access, was extraordinarily difficult. Workers had to be brought to the site. Equipment had to be transported through difficult terrain. Weather was often a challenge, but the workers persisted. They built the dish. They constructed the towers. They suspended the receiver platform. By 1963, the Arecibo Observatory was complete. The dedication ceremony was held on November 1st, 1963. Scientists and dignitaries gathered to witness the opening of the world's largest radio telescope. They looked up at the enormous dish. They understood that they were witnessing something extraordinary. The first discoveries, listening to the universe. When Arecibo first began observing, astronomers were amazed by what they could detect. The sensitivity of the telescope exceeded expectations. It could detect incredibly faint signals. One of the first major discoveries came in 1974. Arecibo detected a pulsar that had been missed by other telescopes. The pulsar was in a binary system, orbiting with a white dwarf star. This was remarkable. It allowed astronomers to test Einstein's theory of general relativity by observing the orbital decay caused by gravitational waves. For decades, Arecibo made discovery after discovery. It mapped the surface of Venus using radar. It studied the moon. It detected asteroid impacts. It observed distant galaxies and quasars. But Arecibo's most famous work was something else entirely, something that captured the imagination of the world. Arecibo became humanity's ambassador to the cosmos, the search for extraterrestrial life. Are we alone? From the very beginning, one of Arecibo's primary missions was to search for signals from extraterrestrial civilizations. The concept was called SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. The idea was simple. If an alien civilization wanted to communicate with us, they might send radio signals. Radio waves travel at the speed of light. They can travel across interstellar distances. They are a logical choice for communication. Arecibo pointed its antenna at nearby stars. It listened. It searched for patterns in the radiation that might indicate an intelligent signal. For decades, astronomers listened. They heard nothing but the natural radio signals from pulsars and quasars and other astronomical objects. But in 1977, something remarkable happened. A signal was detected. The signal came from the constellation Chi Sagittari. It was strong. It lasted 72 seconds. Then it was gone. The astronomer who detected it, Jerry Ehman, was so astounded that he wrote, "Wow," on the data printout. The signal became known as the WOW signal. Was it an alien transmission? Was it a natural phenomenon that had not been understood? Was it radio interference from Earth? The signal was never detected again. It remains one of astronomy's greatest mysteries. The WOW signal captured the imagination of the world. For a moment, it seemed possible that we had detected a signal from an alien civilization. The media erupted. Scientists debated. What if it was real? But other explanations seemed more likely. The signal was never detected again. No other observatory detected it. It was probably a natural phenomenon or a misinterpretation of data. But the search continued. Arecibo continued to listen. For decades, astronomers used Arecibo to search for signals. They never detected another WOW signal, but the search itself was important. It represented humanity's desire to reach out and communicate with the cosmos. The message to the stars. Humanity speaks. If Arecibo was humanity's ear listening to the cosmos, in 1974, it became humanity's voice speaking to the cosmos. Scientists at Arecibo decided to send a message to the stars, a message from humanity to any extraterrestrial civilization that might be listening. The message was designed by Carl Sagan and Frank Drake, pioneers of SETI. The message contained information about humanity. It contained the numbers 1 to 10. It contained information about DNA. It contained an image of the Arecibo telescope itself. It contained a representation of a human figure. The message was encoded in binary. It was transmitted on November 16, 1974, in the direction of the globular cluster M13, about 25,000 light-years away. The message will not arrive for 25,000 years. A hypothetical alien civilization that receives it would receive a message from humanity, as it was in 1974. They would learn about us. They would know that we existed. They would know that we were thinking about them. It was a beautiful gesture. A message in a bottle, thrown into the cosmic ocean. Arecibo was not just listening, it was speaking. The Hollywood connection. Science meets imagination. The Arecibo telescope captured the imagination, not just of scientists, but of the broader world. In 1997, the movie Contact was released. The film was based on a novel by Carl Sagan, the same scientist who helped design the message to the stars. In Contact, the Arecibo telescope plays a crucial role. It detects a signal from space, a signal that contains information about an alien civilization. The signal sparks an international effort to understand what has been received and how to respond. The movie depicted Arecibo as humanity's greatest tool for understanding the cosmos. It showed the telescope as the instrument through which we might discover that we are not alone in the universe. The fictional depiction was not far from reality. Arecibo really was humanity's greatest tool for searching the cosmos. Scientists really were using it to search for signals from extraterrestrial civilizations. The movie captured something real about what Arecibo represented. After the movie's release, Arecibo became even more famous. Tourists visited Puerto Rico to see the telescope. Scientists from around the world came to use it. Arecibo became not just a scientific instrument, but a symbol of humanity's desire to reach out to the cosmos. The pulsars and neutron stars. Extreme physics. While Arecibo was famous for SETI, it made its most important scientific contributions in understanding pulsars and neutron stars. Pulsars are remnants of dead stars. When a massive star explodes in a supernova, it leaves behind a core so dense that protons and electrons are crushed together to form neutrons. The result is a neutron star, a sphere of matter so dense that a teaspoon would weigh 1 billion tons. Neutron stars are often rapidly rotating. As they spin, they emit beams of radiation. From Earth, these beams appear to flash on and off, like a cosmic lighthouse. These flashing objects are called pulsars. Arecibo discovered hundreds of pulsars. Each discovery added to our understanding of these extreme objects. Arecibo determined the properties of pulsars. It measured their rotation rates. It detected binary pulsars orbiting each other. One of the most important discoveries was a binary pulsar system, 2 pulsars orbiting each other. The system was perfect for testing Einstein's theory of general relativity. As the pulsars orbit, they lose energy through gravitational waves, just as Einstein predicted. The orbit decays. The pulsars spiral toward each other. This was the first indirect proof of gravitational waves. It was powerful evidence that Einstein's theory was correct, and it was discovered using Arecibo, mapping Venus, radar astronomy. Arecibo was not just used for receiving signals from space. It was also used for transmitting radar signals and receiving the reflections. Venus is covered in thick clouds. Visible light cannot penetrate the clouds. Astronomers cannot see the surface of Venus through a telescope, but radar can penetrate clouds. Radio waves pass through Venus's atmosphere and reflect off the surface. Arecibo used radar to map the surface of Venus. The radar signals were transmitted from Earth, reflected off Venus, and received back at Arecibo. By analyzing the patterns of reflection, scientists could determine the elevation and structure of Venus's surface. The maps created by Arecibo revealed that Venus's surface is volcanic. There are mountains, there are plains, there are impact craters. The maps were the first detailed look at Venus's surface. Arecibo also used radar to study asteroids. By transmitting radar signals at asteroids and analyzing the reflections, scientists could determine the size, shape, and rotation of asteroids. This was important for understanding the population of asteroids near Earth. The environmental challenge, balancing science and nature. Arecibo was built in a natural valley in Puerto Rico. The telescope was integrated into the landscape, but the presence of the massive structure had environmental impacts. The Puerto Rican forest around Arecibo was home to unique species. There was the Puerto Rican parrot. There were other birds and animals found nowhere else on Earth. Some people argued that the telescope interfered with the natural environment. Scientists who used Arecibo argued that the benefits of the research outweighed the environmental concerns. The discoveries made at Arecibo, they said, contributed to human knowledge and understanding. It was a debate that many scientific institutions face. How do we balance the pursuit of knowledge with environmental stewardship? How do we minimize the impact of our instruments on the natural world? Arecibo tried to minimize its environmental impact. The structure was designed to allow as much light and water through as possible. The surrounding area was managed to protect the local ecosystem. But the tension remained. Science requires instruments. Instruments require space and resources. Sometimes the pursuit of knowledge requires some sacrifice of the natural environment. aging and maintenance, the struggle to keep operating. As Arecibo aged, maintaining it became increasingly difficult. The structure had been exposed to the elements for decades. Salt air from the ocean corroded metal. Hurricanes buffeted the dish. Earthquakes and tremors shook the foundations. By the 2000s, Arecibo was showing its age. The cables holding the receiver platform were rusting. The structure itself was aging. Repairs became more frequent and more expensive. The cost of operating and maintaining Arecibo was enormous, millions of dollars per year. As budgets for science tightened in the 2000s, funding agencies began to question whether Arecibo was worth the cost. In 2018, the National Science Foundation, which funded Arecibo, announced that it could no longer afford to support the facility. Arecibo would be shut down. The telescope that had operated for 55 years would stop observing. The announcement was met with protest from the scientific community. Scientists who had used Arecibo for decades argued that it was irreplaceable. No other radio telescope could do what Arecibo did. Shutting it down would be a loss for science. But the decision seemed final. Arecibo would be shut down. The facility would be decommissioned. The famous telescope would stop listening to the cosmos. The collapse. The end of an era. In August 2020, one of the cables holding the receiver platform snapped. The massive metal cable, thick as a tree trunk, simply broke. It was a sign of how deteriorated the structure had become. More cables were damaged in the months that followed. In November 2020, another cable broke, then another. The structure was becoming unstable. Engineers realized that the receiver platform could collapse at any moment. On December 1st, 2020, the inevitable happened. The receiver platform fell. It plummeted 137 meters onto the dish below. The massive structure that had stood for 57 years collapsed in moments. When the platform fell, it created a massive hole in the dish. Metal mesh ripped. The structure crumpled. The symbol of humanity's reach into the cosmos was destroyed. The collapse was captured on video. The world watched as the iconic telescope was destroyed. Scientists mourned. It was the end of an era. The legacy. A half-century of discovery. Arecibo operated for 57 years. In that time, it made thousands of discoveries. It contributed to countless scientific papers. It trained generations of astronomers. Arecibo discovered hundreds of pulsars. It mapped Venus. It studied asteroids. It searched for signals from extraterrestrial civilizations. It tested Einstein's theory of general relativity. It contributed to our understanding of the universe in profound ways. But beyond the specific discoveries, Arecibo represented something larger. It represented humanity's desire to understand the cosmos. It represented our willingness to build great instruments to explore the universe. It represented our reach toward the stars. The collapse of Arecibo was sad. A great instrument was gone, but the science it conducted lives on. The discoveries remain. The questions it asked remain. The search continues. The future of radio astronomy. Arecibo is gone, but radio astronomy continues. New telescopes have been built. The Atacama Large Millimeter Array in Chile, the Very Large Array in New Mexico. the square-kilometre array under construction in Africa and Australia. These telescopes carry on the work that Arecibo began. They search the cosmos for signals. They study pulsars and quasars. They map the universe. But no single telescope can do everything that Arecibo did. Arecibo was unique. Its size, its location, its capabilities made it irreplaceable. The scientific community is working to ensure that the work Arecibo did continues. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence continues. The study of pulsars continues. The exploration of the cosmos continues. But there is a sense that something irreplaceable was lost when Arecibo collapsed. A symbol of human achievement, a monument to scientific ambition, a tool through which we reached out to the universe. Contemplating Arecibo, what it meant. As we drift into sleep, contemplating Arecibo and what it represented, we contemplate the role of great scientific instruments in human civilization. Arecibo was more than a telescope. It was a symbol of human curiosity. It was a manifestation of our desire to understand the universe. It was proof that humans could build magnificent structures and use them to expand our knowledge. The telescope stood in Puerto Rico for 57 years. It listened to the cosmos. It asked profound questions. Who are we? Are we alone? What does the universe contain? The answers to these questions remain mysterious. But Arecibo helped us edge closer to understanding them. When Arecibo collapsed, we lost an instrument, but we also lost something symbolic. We lost a monument to human achievement. We lost a tool through which we had reached out to the universe. The message that may never be heard. In 1974, humanity sent a message to the stars from Arecibo. The message contained information about us. It was directed at a distant star cluster, 25,000 light years away. That message is still traveling through space. It will arrive at its destination in about 25,000 years, long after humanity, as we know it, has either evolved into something new or disappeared entirely. If an extraterrestrial civilization receives that message, they will learn about us. They will learn that we existed. They will know that we built a great telescope. They will know that we wondered about them. It is a profound thought, a message from one civilization to another, separated by such vast distances that any response would take 50,000 years or more to complete the conversation. Arecibo was the instrument that sent this message. It was humanity's voice speaking to the cosmos. Now that voice is silent, but the message travels on. Sleep and the cosmos. As you drift deeper into sleep, let your mind contemplate what Arecibo meant. Let yourself appreciate that humans built such an enormous and powerful instrument. Let yourself understand what it took to create something that could listen to the faintest signals from the distant universe. Sleep, knowing that Arecibo operated for 57 years. Sleep knowing that in that time, it made thousands of discoveries. Sleep knowing that the work it did continues to benefit science and our understanding of the universe. Sleep knowing that Arecibo collapsed, but the science it conducted lives on. Sleep knowing that new telescopes have taken up the search. Sleep knowing that humanity continues to reach out to the cosmos, searching for answers to the deepest questions. Sleep knowing that the message sent from Arecibo in 1974 is still traveling through space. Sleep knowing that someday, perhaps, an alien civilization will receive it and learn that we existed. Sleep knowing that great works are built and sometimes they fall. Sleep knowing that what matters is not the permanence of the structure, but what it accomplished while it stood. Sleep knowing that Arecibo's legacy lives on in the minds of scientists and in the discoveries that continue to change our understanding of the universe. Final words. Good night from the Deep Sleep Channel. Dream of the great dish in Puerto Rico. Dream of the receiver platform suspended above it. Dream of radio waves arriving from the distant cosmos. Dream of humanity reaching out to the stars. Dream of Arecibo, listening to pulsars and quasars and distant galaxies. Dream of scientists discovering new phenomena. Dream of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Dream of the message sent to the stars. Remember Arecibo not as a telescope that fell, but as an instrument that stood for 57 years and contributed immeasurably to human knowledge. Remember the scientists who used it. Remember the discoveries it made. Remember what it represented. Sleep well, knowing that the cosmos is vast and beautiful. Sleep well, knowing that humanity reaches upward, outward, searching for understanding. Sleep well, and know that Arecibo's legacy lives on in the sky.